We are good. What do you have for us this morning? Headlines related.
Right. So something breaking that I just woke up to this morning is remember the gentleman, the neighbor, Wilson Mendoza down in Lisa Lane in West Bay.
Yeah.
Well, his vehicle was mysteriously caught on fire last night in the early
What?
hours. I know.
What?
Is this the one that the fight
This
over
is
the
the road.
the road?
Mm, yes, indeed.
So is it a total loss?
We don't have all of the details yet.
Hmm.
So we're still waiting, and this is like brand new information. So we're still waiting to
Wow.
see what sort of damage. But fire rescue is on location, and I understand the police are also there. So I guess it's some sort of investigation.
So
Listen, it's not nice, but let's hope that it was caused by no one.
Mm.
You know, like it's not nice that it happened.
Suspicious.
But
hey, what happened with the blocks though? Last time I saw it on Cayman Marl Road.
Yeah, so the blocks were still there, and the courts were taking steps to actually enforce the notice against him. So we're not sure yet if that's going to mean jail time or confiscation of property.
Mm.
But yeah, they are working on that. They're supposed to sign off on it this week, actually.
Wow.
He remains defiant. So in other news, DCI, that's the Business Licensing Division, has informed the public that you can no longer submit an incomplete application. I never knew that you could, to be honest. I've been wasting all my time just, filling out applications.
Yeah.
But they've taken a very strict position now, saying that you have to make sure that your application is completed, because basically their staff are wasting a lot of time taking applications that are not completed, that get held up, and sometimes I guess they make it to the board, also not being fully completed. So no more.
What's this for? What application is it for? A driver's license? For what?
No, business licensing.
Trade. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Trade business licensing.
Yeah. No, I didn't know you could ever not fill those out fully.
Yeah. That's news to me. But anyway, the gentleman who was involved in a mangrove incident back in earlier in the month has now passed away. The police say that he succumbed to his injuries on Thursday on the 29th. And so we wish to extend our condolences to the family of Brendan Lee Gale, who was a Jamaican national residing in the Cayman Islands, only 24 years old.
And do we know it was he was by himself speeding? Do we know any of this?
Yeah, I mean, we can't jump to any conclusions.
That's what I'm trying not to do.
So it was a single vehicle collision on Mangrove on early morning hours after 3:00 on March the 24th. So
sad. People drive safe. I mean, it's just there's no point. There's no point.
Exactly. So he was the lone occupant of the vehicle as well. So yeah. We extend our condolences. So big shout out to John Gray, who won the Intersecondary Sports Day at their school for the 5th consecutive year. So kudos to them.
Nice.
This is where they go up against other schools, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they've got some.
Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've got some good athletic competition there. Some runners and shot put throwing and all sorts of wonderful stuff. So. Yeah, big shout out to all the kids at John Gray.
Where does that go down? At Truman Baden?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. Awesome.
I gotta say congratulations. I saw your lovely billboard.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I was like, hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's been catching some eyes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the blue iguana sculpture at the Queen Elizabeth II Botanic Park has been vandalized.
What?
So yeah, this is so unfortunate. I was actually there on Saturday for this tree planting COP26 event. And when I was leaving, oddly enough, I decided to stop and take a picture of the entrance because I don't think I have a picture of the entrance. And, in the news business, one of the things that I noticed is my eyes catch a lot of things now that you're always like, oh, take a picture of that because you don't know when you need a story, you need a stock photo, quote unquote, And I stopped and took a few pictures of it. And I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. And by Sunday, someone had gone and taken the head off the poor iguana, basically.
So like really vandalized it, not like sprayed it. Oh,
yeah.
So are you creating? Are you creating your own stories now?
That's what I. That's
no.
That's immediately what I jump to.
And this is a concrete sculpture. so I
I
really
see.
wouldn't-
You never know when you're going to need a stock photo for a
You
story.
never know when something happens.
What do you know?
Oh my gosh, no! And it's a concrete sculpture that was donated to the
Yeah.
park by a concrete artist and his sister back
So what
in.
did you have to use a sledgehammer, Sandy?
No. So no, I don't know what crazy person would have done this. Like seriously,
That's so
It's just,
bizarre.
it's just
It
rude.
is
That's so,
weird.
it's like this out of the way. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's just rude and
It's not like a lot of foot traffic. That's
No, it's like you have to drive all the way
Yeah.
down with your
That's just-
hammer.
no, this is at the very top of the road, actually.
Oh, is it the one at the top of the road? I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, the entrance.
The one
And
that's
okay, I thought. Okay, I thought we were talking about one that was like
still just a
out in the
random.
front.
No, not the
Yeah.
ground one, but this one is like high up as well. So I don't know how they did that, but anyway.
Well, it's just
So
people
if you live
driving
in
by.
Frank Sound and you know anything about it, please contact the authorities because people like that we need to fish them out and find out who did it.
Mm-hmm.
Who did
Agreed.
it.
All right, catch
Thank you.
Sandy's show beginning in 2 minutes on 89.1 FM, our new station called Bobo. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Friday show.
All right, Bobo.
All right, see you later.
Bye.
All right, folks. So good morning. Good morning. Things seem to be moving a little bit slow. So before I go live real quick, I am going to just refresh 7:27 and 48 seconds. So let me just kick them out of the studio. Give me 1 second to refresh this feed. I don't know why it's moving so slow, but we're going to just close a couple tabs, close a couple things down, and then we are going to refresh. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm thinking that is looking and feeling better. Yeah, honey child, sometimes I can actually hear the computer over there. You can hear the fan working overtime, and you can hear the processor going, and it's like, okay, let me close a couple tabs just in case. So folks, we're gonna go live in about 2 minutes here on Bobo. Everybody doing good? How's my Facebook streamers? How are you guys doing? Hey, Miss Virtuous, Rita, Wagwan, buenos dias. Marshall, got it locked as usual. Dawn is also here. What a good show last night with the premiere. Did you guys miss it? Premiere Access. He's always game to stay on if he can. We're only going to do an hour, but he stayed on for almost 2 hours, basically. But lots of good questions and good feedback. You guys are making use of that phone line, 936-2626. Love it. Dawn, there's 2 Dawns on the live stream. Did you guys miss it? Okay, here we go. We got 7:29 and 48 seconds.
The views and opinions expressed by the following program and its participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Bobo 89.1 FM and DMS Broadcasting respective stations. The program participants' opinions are based upon information they consider reliable and based on their knowledge.
Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, beaver grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
right. Good morning, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Cold Hard Truth. How is everyone doing? Good morning, one, and good morning, all. We've got tons of people already in the live stream, and I'm sure we've got tons also listening via Bobo 89.1 FM. Morning, Dawn, times two Dawns on live stream. We've got Wee, Rita, Marshall, Olivia's here, Everton. Maria is watching us from Barbados. Good morning, Maria. What's the weather like in Barbados? How is it looking? Melissa says, good morning, Sandy. Everton, looking good. Diamond Princess says, good morning, y'all. Hello, Emma. Emma's on Facebook Live. She says, good morning, peeps. Is Cayman kind about person's personality? Because I've come to witness that Cayman kind isn't always nice, but it's in this situation, it was right. Oh, are you talking about the Mendoza situation? Well, let's talk about it. Let's fill in our listeners on 89.1. Good morning to the beautiful Daisy Anglin as well. Got it locked right here. Your number one talk show in the morning, folks. So, you know, we always keep you guys abreast of what's happening as it's happening. That's the way you do news. So tell you what, if you're waking up this morning and you're a resident in West Bay, or anywhere in this island, you'll find this to be super interesting. Apparently, Wilson Mendoza, now this is the guy who's a bit of a pain, not a bit, a real pain in the rear end. They're off of Liza Lane in West Bay. So he's been torturing his neighbors for the better half of 5 years now over right-of-way access that he wants to close off. So in the early morning hours, the neighbors were awoken by the authorities to say, you know, get up. There's a vehicle fire, and I guess you got to evacuate until we can get the fire under control. So Mendoza's car, I don't know which one, because he's got two cars. So it's probably not the wife's car, but his car, I understand, was ablaze. Now, I don't know how bad it was. I don't know how, if it was a little bit of a, I don't know how bad it was. We haven't gotten any pictures yet. But yes, all I can tell you is, whoo, honey child. What do I think about this? It is suspicious, of course. Most vehicle cars, although vehicles can catch on fire kind of spontaneously, like things happen. They've got electrical components to them, so you never know. But I think maybe they need to look at him for this one, like question him. Yes, carry out a full investigation, but this dude has cameras everywhere. I don't see anybody in West Bay probably being that silly. They're going to let the law take its course, and he's about to be served an enforcement notice this week. So maybe he's looking a little bit of sympathy. This is a conspiracy theory, I know, but I don't normally buy into conspiracy theories. But when it comes to this guy, I don't know. Anything is possible with him. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. No one is probably feeling particularly sorry for him, because this is a guy who's really tortured the Adam family and made everybody's life a living hell. So we'll see. I'm sure the fire service and the police will carry out a full investigation and probably keep us up to date in terms of what's going on. All right. In other news, I'll tell you some days. So CCC, a little bit of update. CCC, big shout out to all the CCC parents. They're always locked in and listening. A few already messaged me this morning to say good morning. So thank you guys so much. And it is, it's just amazing that I think they're listening, sort of. All right. So remember, day before yesterday, I told you that they had canceled the meeting that was supposed to happen on Tuesday. So they canceled it. We were all a bit disappointed, quite frankly, that they decided to cancel it because I think the parents really want to be heard. But the good news is they have kind of stepped back. Listen to this now. They have decided, this is the latest letter that came out yesterday afternoon. They have decided that they are not going to implement the fee change at this time. Somebody listening, chill. So their letter said, good morning, CCC parents. This was yesterday. Below are the main points discussed in yesterday's follow-up meeting with the board of directors. So the board had another meeting. And they have decided, sorry, enrollment forms, they have extended the fee deadline to April the 30th. And you've got to submit them by the 5th. I don't know that they're going to be getting a whole lot of new enrollments, to be honest. But anyway, I guess existing students have to reapply. And then they say after extensive deliberation, the school fee will remain at 7%, the matter to be discussed further at the PTA meeting. So small victory. Big shout out. Raise your teacups this morning. Clink, clink. I got my water cup here. The parents at CUC have at CUC. Yeah. The parents at CCC have a little bit of a reprieve in terms of enrollment fees. So kudos to them. They can now budget and plan accordingly. And you know, folks, the truth of the matter is, if you have children in private schools, I don't have to tell you this, you know this already. Every single year, the school fees do go up, because I guess they say, well, we've got expenses just like everything else, everyone else. We've got to pay CUC, we've got to pay maintenance for the grounds, we've got to upkeep, we've got to pay teachers, competitive salaries, and all of these things. So I know private sector school fees pretty much go up incrementally every single year. What can you do, folks? You just got to prioritize, you know? The way I see it, and I tell parents this all the time, sometimes we spend money on stuff that is a luxury. You know, every time you go to the coffee shop, for example, and you get this latte, super duper, whatever, slushy drink. I like the caramel frappuccinos from Cafe del Sol. I was somewhere else the other day and I tasted one and I was like, ew, it was too much coffee. You guys know that I actually do not drink coffee, right? I've never liked coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker. I don't care what flavor it is or whatever. I don't even like the smell of coffee. Isn't that weird? Like the smell of coffee physically. Oh, how do we have the wrong camera coming up on the screen? Hold on one second now. So somehow we've selected the wrong camera. Hold on. So yes, the smell of coffee is not something that I particularly enjoy. But $10 for a good cup of coffee, right? And I don't really see anyone complaining when they go and get that coffee and you hear them like sitting there sipping it and having such a joyous time with their cup of coffee or whatever. And if you add that up, like I have friends who, for example, drink. I also don't really drink alcohol, but you know, I've got friends who drink. And quite honestly, a lot of times I see them go out for Friday night, and they go out every single Friday night, and they easily drop a couple $100 on a happy hour evening, right? And you multiply that times 4 if you go out every Friday, it adds up. And so we quibble about certain things. Yes, we're quibbling about, oh God, the gas prices and CUC and, you know, school fees. Yes, nobody wants everything to keep going back up, but you don't complain when you're sitting there having a beer or a glass of wine or, you know. So I think we choose how we're going to live our lives. And there are ways that we can all tighten our belts a little bit. And so, you know, when it comes to your children's education, you can't ever really put a price on that, because that's worth every single dollar. If, it's a big caveat, if they are in an institution that is doing right by your kids. And of course, that has been the parental complaint about CCC, is a lot of parents are disappointed. So no increase in school fees right now will be discussed at the next PTA meeting. They also say the fee dress to resume. So apparently what this is on Fridays, they had dress down day. And the kids then pay like a little fee, which I think is donated to I don't know where that slush fund goes, if it's a nonprofit or something, but they pay $1 to have the privilege of dressing down. They had stopped it. And this is one of the complaints from the parents, is that they gave it with like no notice. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, you got to go buy new shoes at $135 by Monday. You've got to, just all this ridiculous stuff. And it was happening so quickly. So they've reverted this now. They're saying that this Friday and every Friday until the end of this school term, your kids are able to continue dressing in their dress down attire, and they pay their little dollar or whatever it is. And then they say changes to the dress code are expected in the new school term for 2022-2023. And they go on to say that stakeholders will have input on the proposed changes. Wow. Oh my God. Seriously? This is amazing news, because before, all the changes that were coming down the pipeline were completely unilateral changes. They were one-way directives at the parents and at the students. And in fact, the parents had no feedback whatsoever. So now the parents are like, thank you. We appreciate you considering us, in the whole situation. Isn't that amazing? That's all parents ever wanted. They were not asking for a whole lot. They were just saying, listen, if you're going to make changes, number one, take our input. And number two, give us time. Because forcing changes through that were immediate, were not particularly helpful to anybody. So thank you, Triple C, for listening. Yeah. The parents appreciate it. So the kids can continue to dress down. Some of the younger kids in particular were not really understanding the new dress down changes. They were not happy. They were confused and no longer wanting to go to school, because you know what? One day being able to dress down is kind of fun, right? All right. So point number 4 in this letter. The faculty conducted a self-assessment. Okay, I'll read what it says first and then we'll talk about it. Based on the information gathered, strategies will be implemented to address teaching, learning, and the curriculum. June the 30th, 2022 is the proposed date for the completion of the new curriculum, with the same to be launched in the next school term. Further discussion will be presented to the parents in the upcoming PTA meeting. All right, let me, let's talk about this one. First of all, I guess we give them an applause. I don't know. Kind of halfway there. But my question is this. If you're implementing changes in June that are coming into effect in the next school year, and then when is the next inspection? Is it like September? How is that going to work exactly? Is that enough time? Doesn't sound like enough time to me. So parents and students and even teachers no time to really implement a curriculum, because if you're just going to change the curriculum for June, the end of the school year, you're going to implement it next year. I guess a new term starts like August, September. And then you have an inspection in September. That hardly gives anybody time to really have perfected it for the inspection. And more importantly, the reason that I look at this and I still shake my head is because this clearly demonstrates a couple of things that are wrong. Number one, you know how they say self-praise is no recommendation? Caymanians are very, very familiar with that phrase. And so I want to say a self-assessment is probably very little to no recommendation either. So the faculty, they say, conducted a self-assessment. Really? Would this still not be some of the same faculty and administrators that were so disconnected and so out of touch with what was happening that they were pushing through all these changes that nobody was happy with? So for them to now being engaged in conducting a self-assessment doesn't really give me a whole lot of hope. What they need to do is look at that inspector's report that they failed 3 times and let that be the assessment that they work off of, and really sit down cracking right away on this curriculum. But it's still shocking that you would have had a failed report and you had all of the pandemic and all this other time to do stuff, and the parents are saying they've made no improvements to the curriculum whatsoever. And some of these so-called self-assessing teachers are the same teachers who are going to Google to teach your kids. So they're sending them a little link, a little video, and say, here you go, teach yourself algebra, teach yourself, I don't know if they do trigonometry in your schools, but teach yourself algebraic equations. They're giving students a pass in Spanish. This is what the parents told me. They're giving them a pass in Spanish. And the one father was like, my son got an A in Spanish, and I don't even know how he did that because he doesn't speak a word of Spanish. I don't think he can conjugate a verb to save his life, but yet he got an A. So what was it based on? That parent doesn't even know. I mean, it was kind of a funny moment when he said it, though. I got to be honest with you. Everybody chuckled in earshot because we were like, what? He got an A and doesn't speak any Spanish? But on a serious note, the dad was like, I question how he got that A. And then there was another class, I can't even remember which one it was. All the kids got exactly a 96% because the kids are talking to each other, parents are talking to each other. So they're like, how does everybody get 96 across the board? So, no, sir. They better try and really do some proper assessment. And I don't know that faculty self-assessing themselves is the answer. They also say that faculty has heard the complaints regarding homework, and a well-deserved surprise is anticipated. Okay. Additional information to be provided at the PTA meeting. So I don't know what complaint about homework they were referring to be honest, because some parents were saying kids aren't getting any homework, no books, no this, no that. And then I don't know that anybody was really complaining they were getting too much. So I don't know what this quote unquote surprise is, but the PTA executive committee, can I tell y'all, please, parents don't actually like surprises, and neither do children. So when you say that a well-deserved surprise is anticipated, keep in mind that that's what got you in this hot mess of ending up in the cold hard truth to begin with. You were trying to surprise everybody with dress code changes, put your hair in a ponytail. The little boys can't wear facial hair anymore. You got to wear black shoes that cost $135. Black and white is no longer acceptable. Girls can't wear, pants that are form-fitting, which is what used to be the rule, and then they changed it. So now they wanted baggy pants. It's like all of these things were a surprise to the parents, and that's the problem. So be careful with surprises. People like to try to plan their school year and plan their lives and also plan their expenses. All right, Triple C. We're here for you. We're being critical where we need to be because we want those 500 and something Caymanian children to succeed, not because we're trying to pick on you. So this parent said, so the petition helped and you helped us too. Thank you. They don't care if they're prepared. They just want to be able to say that they changed the curriculum. What a mess. Yeah. All right. It is what it is. We will continue to monitor the situation. So good morning, Dana. Marshall says for the fees that parents have to pay, I think they should have always been involved and have a say as to what's going on within the school. Well, you want parents to be inclusive. And listen, when you have parents who are there for their kids, who are showing up, willing to protest, willing to sign a petition, that's what you want. You want parents that care, right? We always are lambasting parents. Sometimes we lambast the kids and whatever. And listen, there are a lot of good parents that really do work hard to try to raise good little people. and into productive adults. You've got good schools. Yes, they have some issues and they're struggling, but just work together and listen. Miss Brenda, good morning. Ooh, Alba says, buenos dias, Sandy. ¿Cómo estás? Hoy es mi cumpleaños. Ah, feliz cumpleaños. Hold on now. I got my birthday song. Got it ready. Got it ready. Happy birthday, Alba. Buenos dias. Feliz cumpleaños, mama. And other people that share your birthday today, it would be remiss of me not to give a hearty shout out to none other than Miss Irma. Hey, happy birthday to the beautiful Irma Arch. Today is also her birthday. Gorgeous. There's her with her son, Eric. And this was her birthday cake, 60th birthday she's celebrating. Oh my gosh, isn't that cake gorgeous? Now, I got to tell you all, I actually had a little piece of that cake, and it was also just as delicious as it looks gorgeous. Big shout out to the folks over at Hurley's. They made this cake, and I'm always in awe at the talent that we have here in the Cayman Islands for things like, fondant and cake decorating. And isn't it beautiful? And it actually tastes good, because I know a lot of cakes look good, but when you taste them, it's like eating cardboard. This cake was delicious. So big shout out. Happy birthday. There she is with Miss Heather. We wish you an extremely happy birthday today, both you and Alba. Any other birthday shout outs while we're on the topic? Enjoy your day, folks. Kick up your feet a little bit if it's your birthday. Have a drink in CMR. So yes, that's gorgeous. So good morning. Damien says, what's A in Spanish? Ah, that's a little bit of a joke. Omiria says, good morning, Bobo and the Cayman Islands, sipping my tea, piping hot. Beautiful. Dana is also here for it. Jonathan says, teachers in schools don't get paid unless they have a certain graduation limit. A certain graduation limit? What do you mean? I don't know what that means. That's why they all pass. Oh, you're saying that if the kids don't pass, they don't get paid? I'm pretty sure they're getting paid whether your kids pass or not. It probably wouldn't be a good look if everybody was failing, but what they need to do is just be honest. All right. Damien says new school name is AAA. Good morning to the beautiful Debbie. Lizette has got it locked. Emma says felicidades. So yes, happy birthday to all of our birthday folks. Now, please do not forget, call into the station 936-2626. We had a fabulous show last night in case you missed Premier Access. Every other Wednesday. So yesterday was the 30th. The next show will be on the 14th. No, sorry, on the 13th of April. So make sure you tune in for that show. The Premier comes in the program during Premier Access, and he answers your questions. So we were live on the radio for an hour, and then he hung around for at least another hour on social media. There were so many questions. We did not get to them all. We had a lot of callers calling into the program. People concerned about everything, immigration, employment opportunities for Caymanians, fair treatment, domestic helpers, concerned about, what are their rights if they're being mistreated, processing time for work permits. He fielded a lot of questions last night. The environment, of course, housing. So the Cayman Islands PAT government has put together a housing, let me tell you what it is. Hold on, let me get the correct name here. A housing task force. And I'm trying to get some more information on this, but I did see it in the minutes from their cabinet meeting that they have every single week. So as you guys know, this particular government has started making available the not full minutes, but they do send out a summary of what cabinet did and what cabinet discussed. And so this is fantastic because we get an idea of what's happening, what they're doing in cabinet. And so one of the things that I saw on the agenda this week from, let me just double check the date of this. Let me see here. The date on this was, normally it's about a week out because they have to prepare them and then they have them ready. So cabinet minutes, let's see. So one of the things I saw is that they put together a task force, a housing task force, to tackle what they say is the urgent issue of housing. So this would have been the meeting held at the Little Cayman Beach Resort on Tuesday, the 22nd. So right, so they're about a week, less than a week actually, because this was sent on what day was it sent out? On Wednesday, yeah, so about a week. All right. So they discussed a number of things, folks. And of course, like I said, I was really, really happy to see on the agenda they had this task force, because housing remains a very, very critical issue here in the Cayman Islands. A lot of people are concerned about the state of housing opportunities. We continually see the increase in the housing market. And a lot of Caymanians are saying, listen, what's happening is making housing unattainable for the average person. And this is no joke, right? In such a short space of time. Now, when you're not actively looking for accommodations, sometimes you don't pay attention to what's happening. But it's so crazy because, we haven't been in the housing market, but I have friends who've been in the housing market. And just even a year ago, like a friend bought a condo, maybe a year and a half, I'm trying to remember now. And now, another friend is looking for a place. And when I compare the prices of where it was 2 years ago versus now, I'm just like, what? Literally, it's jaw dropping. And I cannot believe it. I'm like, damn. The pricing of construction is just going up and up and up and up. And it has a complete trickle down effect on everything. So, some of you haven't had an insurance, a property valuation in a while. You've got a property and you're scared to even go get it done. Because if you're like, okay, if the replacement value for my house right now is this dollar amount, construction wise, do you know how much your insurance is your insurance premiums are going to soon supersede probably what you're paying in mortgage. So you're going to be paying a mortgage, interest rates going up, paying for property insurance, right? Plus all of your other incidentals. CUC is going to be joining us here in a little bit. We're going to talk about that because normally that's your second largest competing monthly bill after your mortgage. People are feeling the pinch. So the government has, in some form, acknowledged that. And in their post-meeting summary of this cabinet meeting that happened on the 22nd, they have approved the creation of an interministerial task force that's going to address the housing crisis in the Cayman Islands, and it includes Honorable Wayne Panton as a chairman, Honorable Christopher Saunders as a member, Honorable Johanny Ebanks as a member, Honorable Andre Ebanks as a member, the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Conley as a member, and the Honorable Kenneth Bryan as a member. So, pretty much it's all the ministers getting together on this task force. And I've requested additional information on the remit of this task force and exactly what it is that they're going to be doing. So folks, have a look at these cabinet minutes. They are publicly available. We also see that the government has refused the issuance of a coastal works permit to construct breakwater offshore down in Pease Bay, Town. And they've rescinded the previous approval that was given last year. So this is interesting. I don't know exactly what property that was, but they approved the issuance of a coastal works permit to remove existing concrete dock structure offshore in Pease Bay as well. So I'm guessing that's all related to similar parcels, because one parcel says block 48C 186 and then the other one is 48C 269. So yes, it's good to see they've got some board appointments on here. So they've accepted the resignation of James Gill from the Water Authority Board, and they approved the appointment of Mark Scotland to the Water Authority Board. They also dealt with leases and consolidation of leases of the Royal Bank of Canada House, which is now being occupied by the Office of the Commissioner of Police. So a lot of you didn't know this until you saw, what's her name? Lovell out there twerking. And everybody's like, why is she twerking in front of the bank? Is she hoping to get a twerkalicious loan? Like what's the point really? We could understand the location of the government building and the governor's residence just to annoy those particular officials in her protests. But it kind of seems strange that she was protesting in front of a bank. Well, the reason why she was there is because the old, the old Royal Bank building, which is called Royal Bank of Canada House, was actually now where the Office of the Commissioner of Police was located. So I don't know what direction his office was facing, but he might have been getting a free show in the morning, folks. So that's why she was there. She's very strategic. I mean, you say what you want to say, but trust me. So we do have, again, a CUC joining us. We're going to switch the conversation and invite our guests here into the studio. But do remind me after our guest has left that I have a video, the latest video of Lovell and her predictions that I will share with you all. You got to see it to believe it is all I can tell you. So James is joining us from Canada. Good morning, James. Aquaman says, good morning, Sandy. Great show. Keep it up. Thank you so much. Marley, good morning. She says, wishing Miss Juanita Lake a happy birthday and many more. So Miss Juanita, happy birthday to you as well. Lucille says, every good morning, Sandy. Send my deepest condolences to Jeremy Gould and the rest of the family. So sad, the passing of her mom. Oh, I think they pronounce it Gould. The Gould family has a loss this morning. Our condolences. It says, I will keep in touch with her. Love, stay strong. Miss you, PP. My heart goes out for her. Oh my gosh, so sorry to hear that. Miss Sue, good morning. She agrees that happy hour is so expensive. She said she went out for a family Friday and the bill was way too much. So yes, that's it for a while. Now it was packed and some are there every Friday. How do they do it? Well, like I said earlier, people do have disposable income that they choose to spend in particular areas and not complain about. Normally liquor is one of those things that people are just going to buy it. If they want to drink, they're going to drink. And of course they like to go out in public spaces because they can have friends and, have that sort of relationship as opposed to just sitting at home and drinking a glass of wine. Jonathan shares that prices are going up because land for homes is becoming minimal. I don't know about that, Jonathan. I feel like we probably have some land space. It just depends on where you're talking about, right? So I guess in the more desirable areas, it's becoming more scarce, more, is that the word I'm looking for? Yes. But in some areas of this island, there's tons of land mass, but do we want to keep, building until we have nothing else in terms of land? Jonathan also makes a very interesting point. He says, that's why I think building that 30-story building is not a bad idea. We're going to have a show about that, Jonathan, because I think you might have a point, and a lot of people don't want to hear it, but we're going to talk about the logical reasons why going up with the structure makes a whole lot of sense, even for the environmental impact. Emma says, wasn't Mark at NRA? What happened? Why he decided to move to Water Authority? So I'm not too much into Mark Scotland's business, but I do know he was on the UCCI board during the last administration. I think he was actually board chairman. His work at NRA is not on the board. He is, and he might still be, a consultant, because remember he used to actually, didn't he head up NRA? And so he was there working as an employee and a manager for many, many years. And so no doubt he has a lot of knowledge that is still useful to them. So I believe that they had him consulting on a number of projects and he had a consulting contract. So not on the board though. So this is actually a board appointment, just to clarify. Morning to Tracy, joining us from West Bay. Damien says to organize that Water Authority, put in pipes first and then pave the road afterwards. So before we bring on CUC, I'm sure a lot of you saw the video that we posted up this weekend. I was shocked quite frankly, to see a week after the National Roads Authority worked incredibly hard to finally get that Hurley's roundabout completed and looking really nice, nice black tarred roadway. All of a sudden, here comes the Water Authority on a Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Yes. Jackhammering up the road. I'm just like, what? Whatever happened to like planning this? You knew for how long have they been working on that roundabout? Like, seriously, I feel like it's been a year, right? You needed to do something there. Could you not have called the NRA and say, oh, NRA friends, when are you planning to complete this? Oh, yeah. Okay. We need to come and lay some piping. We need to do whatever. If this was not an emergency, and I didn't get the sense that it was, let us come in and do this before you finalize and pave the road. And that didn't happen. And I swear it seems to happen every single time. Now, you guys know I don't like to use exclusive words like every time and all the time because it's normally not true. But it happens a lot where after road has been completed, here comes somebody, whether it's a telecom company, a utility company, somebody's going to find a reason to go and tear up the road. And let's be honest, they never seem to be able to put it back exactly how it was. Unbelievable. And I think the NRA needs to start charging them for that. Like, you come and tear the road up, they can fix it back and they can fix it perfectly. But here's the invoice. What a mess. All right. Let's put our hands together. KK says that's exactly what they do every time. They should always work together. Kiss my teeth. Yes, honey. Big shout out to CUC. We have a Vice President of Customer Service, Mr. Sasha Tibbet. Sasha, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
All good. How are you?
Well, not too bad. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, welcome back.
Thank you.
So listen, we saw you guys send out a bit of an email, a notification to all of your customers. And I thought it was certainly different for sure, because I don't recall you guys ever doing this before, but I thought, you know what? CUC is probably sick and tired of every single summer, the summer months hit, and here comes all the social media complaints and all the posts. Oh my God, have you guys seen my CUC bill? It went up by $200. So you guys made what I call a preemptive strike this time. You reminded people that, hey, it's March, get ready. So this is the first time you've done that, right?
I think we've done it in different ways. I think this is the first time we've been so open, not open, but so out there about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, it's this is not the kind of thing that, we're like, oh gosh, here comes summer again, time to get licks. I mean, it as true as that is, we feel it too. We're all of us are paying our bills, and we're getting it just as badly as all of our customers are. And I think what's happened is there's sort of an acute awareness that the price of fuel is going up rapidly. We're seeing it at the pumps. I think some gas stations have fuel at over $6 a gallon now. And we're buying the same fuel, right? And have been for quite some time. And when we saw the significant price increase on the last shipment that came in, we realized, okay, this is going to be hard on our customers. And while there's not much that we can do about the price of fuel, there is we do have the ability to say, look, this is coming. We're seeing the invoices now, and as you know, the fuel that we buy today, the cost of it doesn't show up for a couple of months on the bill, when unfortunately that couple of months is right at the start of summer, when the temperature gets higher. So it really is very unfortunately going to be a double whammy. And we wanted to make sure that customers were aware, that they budget, and also think about things that they can do to prepare in the form of making sure their air conditioners are maintained, making sure that if they've got that leaky window that's letting air in, now is a very good time to sort that out. and just doing whatever you can in terms of if you were considering making a energy efficiency investment, now is a very good time. And also thinking about how you use your house. That there's still, I guess, I hear questions. Is it better to leave the AC on when I'm not home to avoid having to work too hard when I do get home? And the answer to that is unequivocally no. Do not leave your air conditioner on when the house is empty. Some people are concerned either for pets or sometimes humidity. You can achieve those goals by just increasing the temperature on your AC. You don't need to cool your house down to 77 degrees when it's empty. Maybe choose a setting of 82, which is what I use, and 3 dogs in the house, no problems. And what you find is, yes, it is warm when you get home, but your AC hasn't been running all day long in the hot sun where it has to work the hardest. So there's, there are things that people can do to help themselves and make sure that they're not wasting energy, especially with the prices that it's probably going to be with the heavy fuel cost.
Right. Wow. So let's have a look, first of all, at the email that went out on, I think it was Monday, actually. I received it on Monday. And so it says that CUC wants you to be prepared. And I'll just share it with our viewers in case anyone, for some reason, didn't see the email. Now, of course, our radio listeners can't see these things, but everybody else in social can. We do have almost 300 people watching the social media feed. So here we go. So this is the email. It says CUC wants you to be prepared. Fuel prices and temperatures are on the rise. So how much does the temperature go up? Do you know offhand during the summer months? How much does the temperature go up between?
It's probably about a 10-degree difference between
the
average temperature in the winter and the summer, which is nothing compared to northern climates. However, the average temperatures in the winter might be around, say, 78, 80 degrees on a 24-hour basis. And if you're the type of person that likes to cool your house to 77 degrees, that's not a big temperature change for your air conditioner to work against. But in the summer, when the average temperature might be 88 and you're trying to get to 77, your temperature difference, instead of being 2 or 3 degrees, is now 10 degrees. And the load on air conditioners is proportional to that temperature difference. So what you're using to cool your house in the winter is only about 20 to 30% of the energy needed to cool your house to the same temperature during the summer.
Oh, wow.
And that's even more, it's even more energy when you're cooling during the day in the summer when it's hotter, and it might be in the low 90s. So that even brings out the point of not running your air conditioner during the day if you're not home. It makes an even bigger difference in the summer.
So, of course, the email reminds us that there's a number of things pushing the cost of fuel up, which is going to impact everything. I'm glad you mentioned airfare prices because, some families are trying to get back to traveling, maybe taking a little break over the Easter holidays or even going into the summer. And of course, the fuel increase, gas prices for sure, when we go and fill up our vehicles, but everybody uses fuel, and of course the electric companies also are using fuel. So unfortunately for us, this war there's never a good time for war, but I feel like right on what might be, we're hoping the tail end of the pandemic of us trying to get back to normal, it's certainly not the best time. So you go on to say in the email that communication is key and, that you guys are here to notify the customer of upcoming fuel costs, which are available on the CUC website. So there is a link here, folks, that they have provided that you can actually go and have a look at what the fuel costs are. So this is very, very transparent, Sasha. Thank you guys for doing this. I'm just going to pull this screen over. So once again, everyone can see this. So explain to us exactly what it is that we are looking at here.
So you're on the website. So let me maximize my screen so I can see it too.
Yes.
So the yellow line, I believe, is the total fuel cost. And then down below, there are elements of other costs such as import duty. And I believe there's also a license and regulatory fee that's included in there. So, oh, sorry, no, that's not that. That's I'm just looking in the fine print with my glasses.
Yeah, so it says that the figures are not inclusive of government fuel duty.
Correct. So there's fuel, there's the fuel duty is the second column, and then the renewable cost is the last column. The fuel duty and the renewable costs are minimal in comparison to the actual fuel cost. Sorry, the fuel duty and renewable costs are minimal in comparison to the cost of the fuel itself. But they do make up a small portion of the bill. And I have to emphasize that renewable cost is the cost that we paid for renewable energy. And that would have offset the fuel cost. So without that renewable cost, the fuel cost would have been higher, is what I'm saying. Right.
Okay.
So it's just sort of showing what percentage of your energy is coming from fuel versus renewable on a dollar basis.
And so this goes back quite a ways, actually. I mean, this goes back to 2014.
Yeah.
So we can see the fuel costs per kilowatt hour. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, which is the unit of energy that we bill for.
Okay. And quite interestingly enough, I mean, we've seen it. It was actually higher back in 2014.
Yes.
And then, wow, what was going on? I'm trying to remember what was going on in 2014.
It's all global oil price.
Yeah.
So we've very fortunately for the last 2 to 3 years have had low global fuel prices, and we've seen the benefit of that. And frankly, those were the times when we should have been making greater moves towards renewable energy. However, that hasn't happened despite us preparing significant plans to do so. And now, a year or two ago, when we looked at various projects and made proposals, we were looking at NPV type benefits for consumers for a single project as high as $24 million for the life of the project. And that was based on a fuel factor of around 10, 11, 12 cents. Now we're seeing fuel factors in the 14-cent range, and with the direction the oil prices are going, 20 cents is not something that I would be surprised about. Although we don't see the purchase price at that level yet, but with the trajectory that's going on and the uncertainty that's happening in the globe, I would not be surprised to see 20-cent fuel factors before the year is out. And when you can get solar energy at less than 10 cents, you can make a huge impact on the cost of energy when you're displacing 20-cent fuel.
Wow. So the next two columns, which is the fuel duty and the renewable cost, you're saying the renewable cost charge helps to offset the first column, the fuel cost?
Yeah. So if we weren't buying renewable energy like we do now, and we buy a small amount, so it's probably about 3% of our energy comes from renewable energy so far. And we have plans to get that up past 60%. We just need to get some projects going. But if we weren't doing that, the fuel cost and the fuel duty portions would be marginally higher than they are shown there. So the solar is already working to reduce fuel and reduce fuel duty. We just need to sort of flip that around so that the renewable energy can be the larger portion of the energy cost than the fuel. And once we do that, we're now taking a higher percentage of our energy from a cheaper energy source.
Now, you made mention that we should have been making, some moves towards some additional efforts towards renewable energy, but that didn't happen during the last couple of years. Can you tell us why that didn't happen?
Oh, I think there's a lot of reasons there. CUC put together our integrated resource plan in right around the time that the national energy policy was being drafted. And the resource plan is very closely aligned to the national energy policy, largely because the people that were creating that policy were sort of inputs for our resource plan when we did consultations and so on. And we came up with a plan that would pretty much get the country by 2030 to comply with Paris Accord reduction in CO2 emissions, at least for the energy sector. And ever since then, we've been preparing to deliver those projects. Right now, CUC does not have exclusive license anymore to do generation projects. So in the past, in the old license, we would have just proceeded and made those investments for the consumer to have the savings from them. We don't have the right to do that anymore. So what the regulator, OFREG, is working on doing is putting together a procurement process, which CUC would compete with other companies for the, I guess, privilege to provide these services. Unfortunately, that procurement process has been quite protracted in the making, and perhaps somewhat rightly so, because it is quite complex, and it's, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and I suppose the regulators just making sure that they get it right.
Okay, well, we know anything that has to do with regulation takes a while. So this bit then in the email about the upcoming bill, the 2-month delay, can you just explain this for the benefit of our listeners? We all swear that the second fuel prices increase in the US, they seem to immediately go up here in the Cayman Islands, whether there has been, everybody, we're like, do we not have fuel reserves? Do we not have fuel in the tanks? Because we feel like it's almost immediate. Yeah. But this little paragraph here kind of reminds us that it actually isn't. So go ahead and break this down for us.
Yeah, so if you look at the graph, I don't know if you can zoom in on it so the viewers can see, it shows that over the last year or so, this is history of fuel factor for the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, this is my email, so can't really.
Yeah, we were down at 9 cents in April of last year, and that was very much as a result of the COVID depressed demand for fuel, and therefore fuel prices were very low for quite some time, for about a year during the height of the pandemic. And then they slowly creeped up. I mean, 11-cent fuel is still very good, right? So we went through this last summer with probably some of the best fuel prices we've seen in the last couple of decades. And so we had 11 cents. And now this year, we're seeing it slowly creep up back to, I guess, what everybody might have suspected in the fuel markets would be a normal price. And now we've got the instability that's been brought about by this invasion that's going on, and that's causing a big sort of ripple effect in the whole energy market because of some of the policies that various countries are taking in as a response. I believe some of the energy flows from Russia into Europe have been reduced, if not stopped altogether. And that changes the energy market completely. So, for example, from what I understand, the Gulf Coast, where not CUC, but our providers get most of their fuel from, is now going to start exporting diesel to Europe, which is not something that they normally do. And as a result, they have greater demand. And if you economics 101, demand increases increase in demand increases cost, and so they're supplying to a larger number, and the costs are going up. And then there's other market forces that are fairly complex, but the long and short of it is that there's a war going on, and the countries involved are very heavily involved in the energy market, and that's driving the cost of fuel up.
Wow. Okay, so for your bills now that you're receiving and what's happening in the current market,
Yeah.
you're going to see increases for March and April.
Yeah, the difference between March and April is minimal.
Mhm.
I don't see the percentage here on the letter, but we're going from 13.9 cents to 14.17 cents. That's almost constant. I think the biggest increase that people might see is temperature related. But even still, March has not been a very warm month. So I think the bills that people receive now should be what they would normally expect. My greatest concern is what's going to happen in May and June and July.
Right.
Knowing that May's bill comes out in June. So the bills that come out in June are really going to be the ones where we would see any of the sort of double effect of fuel and the increased temperatures as well.
So we had, I think it was Damien that might have been asking about the fuel charge per kilowatt. So for March and April bills, it's approximately 14 cents
Yep.
per kilowatt hour. So there we go, folks. And of course, there's this graph here that shows the fluctuation since April of 2021. So basically for the last year.
Yeah, and if you go on our website, I think it goes back 10 years. So you can sort of see the trend.
Right. All right. So a few comments coming in, and then we're going to go on to how can you prepare for what's coming. So Jonathan says, I think, Jonathan, your question was just answered about the kilowatt. Carol says that they always increase their rates in the summer. So let's talk about the rate increase, because I think CUC has a guarantee rate increase that you guys can take. And do you normally take it during the summer months?
Yeah, so our rates are set based on a percentage of CPI index, and that CPI index is a blend of US and Cayman CPI, with the increase in costs, or the costs of fuel and food are removed from those indexes. And I think a large portion of why that is to make sure that the fuel impact is not a double whammy on both the base rates and on the fuel factor for customers. And so our rates increase as a percentage of inflation. And it's actually, historically, it's been lower than the percentage of inflation, which despite our costs going up at typical inflation rates. So the rate structure is designed to force CUC to be more efficient and sort of do more with less, which we have been sort of living in that environment since the license was renewed in 2008.
Is there any way that you can take it at a different time? Is that possible? I mean, I guess that's what people are wondering, given how
we did that last year.
Okay.
So it was the year before, in 2020, in the height of the pandemic. There wasn't a rate increase last year, but in 2020, the height of pandemic, we were due, I think it was a 6% rate increase. And now that's not 6% on the total cost, that's 6% on the base rates. So our base rates at the time were, I think, approximately 11 cents. And so it's 6% of 11 cents, which is maybe 0.7% or 0.65 of a cent, sorry. So it wasn't, those type of rate increases produce effects on customer bills, usually in the single dollar amount per month, single digit dollar amount. So we're not seeing these type of increases be near as hard to manage as increases in the cost of fuel, where the cost of a kilowatt hour could go up and down. And in fact, if you just look in the same chart that you're showing, or we're showing, between January and February, the cost of fuel went from just below 13 cents to just above 15 cents in 1 month. And so that kind of increase in fuel costs would eclipse any rate increase that CUC gets, because it's typically much less than a cent that the rates would go up by.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, Damien says, could they consider spreading that cost, that extra cost, over some winter bills? So I'm not sure if this is the fuel cost, but is there any other way to?
We did that. We did that during the pandemic. We
Right.
foregoed the first 6 months of the rate increase for 2020, and then those were recovered in the early part of 2021. So the rate increase was implemented with a sort of a back billing for the rate increase that was not implemented in June as it normally would have been. There are some challenges with doing that, but that discussion is open, I suppose.
Caitlin is sharing that we need another electricity company in the island. She says exactly every minute it's some increase. And then I think it was Damien that might have replied to her and said, well, how would that work exactly? Share the light poles? And then CUC is going to charge the competitor to use their poles. So, obviously, I'm sure you probably don't want to talk too much about the possibility of you guys getting competition, but you've already gotten competition by way of solar and other renewable energy projects that have come on board, right? But this concept of having a direct competitor, somebody else who can come in and provide electricity services to the population here in the Cayman Islands at a more competitive price than CUC. When people say that to you, what's your first thought? Is it something that's feasible? Again, obviously you're going to speak from your organization's perspective, but I'm sure you guys have looked at it. What would be involved in something like that?
Yeah, so we have, and we've analyzed it substantially, because it's always something that Ofreg is getting the same pressures on that point as well. And it comes down, the desire for such a thing really comes down to consumers wanting choice. Everybody wants to have a choice, particularly in the instance where perhaps they've not got a service that they liked. And I know myself personally, if a company has not treated me well, I would do anything and everything to not do business with them again. And in a monopoly situation, that opportunity is not there, and that is a challenge with serving customers as a monopoly, is in that we have to treat every single one of our customers with a level of respect and understanding and care, so that they don't feel like they need another choice. Now, I'm not going to say that we have reached that level, not on 100% level. Our satisfaction ratings are in the 75 to 80% range, which for a monopoly is decent, but is by no means something that I'm happy to accept. And we will continue to improve services until we can get that number to an even higher number. That being said, talking about how could competition come in, and it is extremely challenging to consider how that would happen just on a physical basis in a market of our size. You talked about the using how do you get power down the road, right? There's enough light poles and wires in the sky already. So the concept of having two transmission and distribution networks is foreign. And in fact, I don't think is really implemented anywhere in significant scale. Definitely not down at the consumer level. You wouldn't see that a customer would choose which wire to connect to, because the infrastructure costs are just too high, that any savings that you might get from competition would be wiped out by the fact that you have to pay for two transmission and distribution grids for the same number of customers. That being said, we do in Cayman have a regulatory environment where there is competition on the generation side, which we have our opinion on whether or not that is the most efficient way of doing things, and our view is that it isn't, but it is something that we've accepted, and it's something that we work together with the regulator on facilitating, so that whenever there is a need for generating assets, the regulator would sorry about that, not a call coming. Maybe it was the regulator. The regulator would put out an RFP, and CUC would bid in for it, and so would any other qualified entity who could produce a generating facility, and the regulator would evaluate those proposals and choose the best one, and the best one would be given if it's not CUC, would be given the opportunity to negotiate a power purchase agreement with CUC, and we would buy the power and we would transmit it and distribute it to the consumers. So that environment does exist on the side of purchasing energy. We've only had one of those competitions so far, which was back in 2016, and CUC won it. We won it actually by a very large margin. I think that the second place bidder was 22% more expensive than CUC. And that I think that's something that we're quite proud of. But the process still exists, and we'll continue to work in that process and bid on every opportunity that's out there, because we know that what we're doing is very cost competitive. While it's the cost of energy is still extremely expensive here, we know within our heart of hearts that we're doing everything that we can to make it as low a cost as possible. And the faster that we can get some of these renewable energy projects going, the faster we're actually going to see those numbers coming down.
All right. Well, folks, hopefully that gives you some insight into some of the considerations that have to be taken on board when you have this conversation about how realistic is competition. So Lavana, good morning. She says you're coming in nice and clear on the radio. Thank you for the feedback. Emma, oops, looks like I started having convo there and it switched my screen. Emma says, but government could do something, because they could waive duty and fuel for a while and make sure the savings are passed on to the customer. After all, they were paying a lot of people that stipend that didn't even need it. That has got to be something that government can do. The cost of living going up, and some companies are even decreasing income. God help us, items in the stores have almost doubled for purchase of certain items. This probably would have been a question for the premier last night in terms of how realistic it would be for the government to take on board an initiative like either reducing the fuel charges or waiving them. I don't see government waiving it. And, I think
actually it's not, Sandy. They already do. So the fuel duty that is charged for vehicles is 75 cents a gallon. The fuel duty that's charged for energy production is 25 cents a gallon. That's been that way for, I can't remember how many governments now, but it's been that way for quite some time, with a view of trying to help reduce the cost of energy for the public. And that savings is passed on 100% to the customer.
That's interesting. So, so we're paying less.
Not zero duty, but it is reduced.
Yes. So the duty that we're paying on the CUC fuel is 50 cents less than what we're paying at the tanks.
Per gallon, yes.
Per gallon. Okay, I never knew that. Look at that, folks. Learn something new every single day. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, so Emma, hopefully that gives you a little bit more information there. Damien says, oh, my apologies. KK says maybe we should be charged for what we use only and you all foot the bill for the rest. Any idea what that means? I'm not entirely clear.
I'm not either. Customers are only charged for what they're used, what they have used, and
What they've used.
through their meter. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if she means like the other, I think there were some other smaller fees that are on the bill.
No, our bills, we've done a fairly good job, I think, of making sure that costs are applied to customers that are using the services that those costs are associated with. So, for example, large commercial entities have a different cost structure to serve them, and their billing is very different than a residence is, and the kilowatt hour cost usually comes out to be pretty much close to the same, but the way that the bill is put together is very different, and it's aligned with the cost to serve that type of customer.
All right. So this is where it's important to have the experts on, like Sasha, because I think oftentimes there is a lot of misinformation and people not fully understanding how these things work. And we make a lot of comments about, all sorts of things that are, the comments are actually completely wrong. The way that we view it and the information that we think we know is wrong. So it's good to have the correct information. So Emma's suggesting people go buy CUC shares before the summer, that perhaps that's going to be a good investment. KK wants to know, where can she go and buy shares? I think you can go to the website.
Yeah, there's a description. Customers have a way of buying shares, and it's described on our website. But actually, anybody on the planet that is an adult can buy our shares through the stock market.
Now, Caitlin has a comment saying that we're paying all this money and every minute they have some outage. Now, I'm going to be fair to CUC because I don't think it's every minute. What sort of outage, what's your outage rate, Sasha? I can't recall the last time you had
Yeah,
outage, but...
so there are some customers that will experience greater outages than others. It's not everybody gets the same treatment. I want to say not the same treatment, the same experience. So for example, in the past, I would say 5 years ago, we were really struggling with reliability, and the average outage time for the average customer was in the order of about 7 hours a year, which within the context of the Caribbean is not a terrible number, but within the context of the standards that we hold for ourselves, and I think our customers hold for us, that was terrible. And back then, we took a fairly strong look at it and said, this is unacceptable, and we want to target 2 hours a year on the average. And if you think about that, that's 99.99% of the time the power is on, right? So we want to talk. We're aiming towards 2 hours a year as an average, and there was no silver bullet to fix the 7-hour problem. There was hundreds and hundreds of initiatives that were put together. Sometimes it was just the way that we responded to an outage, who got called at what time. In other instances, it was new substations and about $25 million worth of work to put those in. And there was all sorts of initiatives that we put through. And last year, I think we actually had our best reliability year, and the average outage for the average customer was 2.4 hours for the year. So we've almost got our target. We're going to continue going. We're not going to stop until we get there. It's taken a lot of investment. It's taken a lot of effort. There's an entire reliability 2.0 team working on it. And there was actually at one point that we had almost a full department working on it, just to make the changes that were necessary to make those improvements. And I think we're pretty proud to say that we have got 90% of the way there, and we're not going to stop.
All right. Well, that's not terrible, folks. 2.5 hours for the entire year.
Now, there may be some customers that, for example, if you're in a neighborhood and sometimes we have an outage that we really can't find it the first time we go out. You go out and usually what's involved is there's maybe frog or a bird or something like that that got grounded and died and caused the fuse to blow. And
Right.
sometimes we can't find that. And other times it may be a tree where a limb is blowing into the line and then it arcs and then the limb comes clear. And when we go out, we can't find it. So we'll have instances like that where sometimes you'll have 2, 3, 4 outages in a row for a small group of customers until we actually find what really went wrong. And those are the areas that our reliability team is really starting to hone in on and focus on, because those are now, the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, in terms of making improvements. So we'll hopefully see that those instances are fewer and further between as we go forward.
And the other point that I just took away from that is not every outage is because of CUC. A lot of these outages, if somebody runs into a light pole, for example, a lot of traffic.
Those light poles, they walk at 3 a.m.
Yes,
Right
that's not
into the-
something you can blame CUC for, because the power has been taken out because the light pole is down. So yeah, all right.
We do factor it in a little bit in our design as much as we can in terms of making sure that they're away from the roads, but there's only so much land available for these things, and so it's sometimes not possible to get them completely out of the way.
Is it possible for more underground? I know some neighborhoods have the underground wiring. Is that something that CUC is doing more of? And why isn't it done in a lot of other areas? Is there any reason for that?
That is a really good question, and is something that we are actually working on. So the cost of putting the infrastructure underground is significant. It's significantly higher than the cost of putting it on a pole, orders of magnitude higher. That being said, there are benefits that come, not really reliability benefits, because when you have outages underground, you can't see it. You have to go find it in the ground. And so those outages tend to be longer. So what the industry has come to realize is that underground infrastructure doesn't really improve reliability, but what it does do, and this is fundamentally important for Cayman, is it provides storm resilience. Right? So imagine a situation with an underground network and the power doesn't go out in a storm.
Right.
Entirely possible, right? But the cost to do that is significant. We are having discussions, and we've actually got 2 projects approved to put some of our critical infrastructure underground, but we are having discussions with OFREG on how we can do that without increasing the rates in a way that is unsustainable for the customer. And some of the ideas are as well, if it's going to take a cent or 2 more kilowatt hour, why not bundle that in with, say, some renewable energy projects at the same time, so that it's not resulting in an increased cost, but the savings is shared between the consumer and improving the infrastructure. And so those types of discussions are happening. And certain instances, certain types of circuits are bigger bang for the buck, so to speak, and we're proceeding with 2 of them right now.
Interesting.
Hopefully,
I was just
pick up the road like you were commenting about the water authority the other day.
Yeah. But I was just having a think about that. Imagine if all the Cayman Islands was underground during Ivan. Oh my gosh, we would have had electricity probably almost right throughout, really.
Perhaps. I
There
mean,
might have been
the
some
fact that, the buildings, if the
Yeah.
buildings get damaged, and Hurricane Ivan was such a terrible storm, we would have seen issues with flooding of ground-based equipment, like the transformers, and those can be submerged completely, but it does cause issues, and it exposes certain types of failures to be possible. And also, if the house is flooded, you don't really want to have power.
Right.
It's a dangerous thing, and unfortunately, most houses are built to codes that if that were to happen, the breaker would just trip. Right, but it is something to consider. But if the main infrastructure is in place, after Hurricane Ivan, it took us 77 days to connect the last customer that could receive power. If in a situation, and just think about what that did to the GDP. Power fuels the economy, so to speak. If a facility is not energized, it's not producing anything. It's not doing financial transactions. It's not hosting tourists, nothing, right? And so the sooner that we can get that up, the sooner the economy can be back in shape. And so we're having those discussions with OFREG on how we can make those investments in a cost-effective manner for consumers.
All right, Miss Morna says to get out the old kerosene lamps, the oil lamps. We're going to be needing those shortly. She says that she only sees increases. She doesn't ever see anything go down. Jonathan is questioning if the 11 cent per gallon, it's actually per kilowatt, not per gallon.
Yeah.
And he's saying,
I want that 11 cent per gallon.
He says 14 cents per kilowatt, no way. So he seems to be in some disbelief about that. I'm not sure why. Roger?
That's the fuel portion only.
Yes. Okay. So Roger says history will show that every May CUC increases their rates. So to try to shift the increase in oil pricing is speculative. To add insult to injury, you all then brag about profits. Does CUC add anything to the fuel rate that you're paying?
No. We neither lose nor win on fuel. It's a straight pass through. In fact, I don't know what the exact percentage is now, but about 60% of the bill has zero margin on it. It's just money in one door and out the next.
Magdalene says that competition might not be the right answer because look at what happened to telecom. All right. Damien says, is it possible for certain areas in Cayman to have underground lines? We just talked about that. I think we're just catching up on a few of the online comments. John wants to know, could CUC work with diesel suppliers to hedge a good portion of the fuel with pre-purchase agreements? This could reduce the volatility with the global market issues.
Yeah, we do that, not with the fuel suppliers, but with financial institutions. So we purchase hedges on a portion of our fuel. We have to do that in conjunction with OFREG. They have to approve because it costs money to do that. It's kind of like buying insurance on your fuel price. Typically, when you buy insurance on your home, the insurance company wins. But in the event of a significant event, you're saved. And so that's similarly what we do with fuel hedging. Is it protects the customer from a major price spike for a smaller cost, ongoing cost. And we work with OFREG to do that. Unfortunately, not 100% of our fuel is hedged. I believe we're at around 40%. So there's that. What we're doing will perhaps stem what we're warning customers about, but it's not gonna be completely effective.
Right. Let's just see. We've got some more questions coming in here. So Damien is asking about storage tanks for fuel. So what sort of storage capacity does CUC have?
Oh, I don't know the number exactly offhand. We have 3 large tanks that will store approximately about half a month worth of fuel. And then the 2 fuel suppliers also have tanks. So I think at any given time, there's approximately 60 days of fuel available on island. And yeah, that's kind of what it is. And that's necessary to deal with things like if there's a disruption in supply, we can't shut the company down while we sort it out, right? So sorry, you can't shut the country down while we sort it out.
Right.
So that 60 days is kind of a safe spot to be in.
All right, Susan has a question about deposits, and it's funny that Susan should ask this question because I had a friend, Kevin, a couple weeks ago. He was cussing about his CUC deposit, and not really understanding. So he's moving into sold his place and he's moving into a unit, and he said his deposit should have been based on his usage at his previous location, but it's actually based on the usage of the unit that he's moving into. And I thought about it for a second, and this was just my layman's explanation, which I thought made sense. And I said, but Kevin, I could understand why it would be location specific, because there's so many factors, and we're going to go back to that email, that impact what you'll use at a specific location in terms of energy efficiency, how well the AC units are working, how old they are, if they're not quite as energy efficient, your windows, how the house is facing the sun. I mean, there's tons of things with a specific location, the shade around the property, that could mean that location, although it's smaller or the same square footage, could be less or more. So Susan has a similar question. She says, can you explain how deposits are calculated? I rented a 2-bedroom in 2020 versus a 3-bedroom in 2022, but I have the same square footage, but the 3-bedroom had a way higher deposit, but yet the 2 units have the same square footage. So explain to us how you guys calculate and figure out what the deposit should be.
Sure. And it certainly is a point of contention. So deposits are calculated based on 45 days of the average consumption of the the home, I guess. And so, yes, that does rely on the prior tenants or occupiers' habits and not the new person's habits. And to be fair, that is a challenge with the process. However, we do have a way that customers can apply to have their deposit reduced if they feel that they've demonstrated that they're using substantially less. And we can look at it. And I think that comes in at about 6 months. So if you've been in a place and you feel that your deposit is too high, you can apply for us to look at it. And if we agree that yes, the 45-day calculation that was put in place at the beginning was too high based on your now sort of usage habits, we will refund a portion of the deposit.
And one of the other things, and I don't know that a lot of people do this, but I've had this happen in a commercial environment before. You pay your deposit and you've been there for a while. CUC will sometimes allow you to apply your deposit towards a bill, so that basically they're not necessarily holding a deposit for you. I thought.
Yeah, that only happens when a customer converts to prepay service.
Oh.
So residential customers can get their service done on a prepay basis. That's actually how I do it. Have been doing it that way for about 5 years, and it's the same rates as regular billing. What I like about it is no deposit, no disconnection fees. You do have the responsibility of keeping your balance positive. And if you don't, the power is cut off automatically. It's happened to me, but it's only been my own fault. And you just top it up. I get a daily email saying yesterday you used this much. I find extremely helpful to know, because when you get a bill at the end of the month, you can't remember what you did in the first week of the month. But if you get a bill each day that says, hey, yesterday cost whatever, $8, you can think, well, gee, why is yesterday $8 and every other day was $5? What did I do? Oh, I had a party and I had 4 or 5 guests over for dinner. Well, when you do that, you cook more, your AC's probably set a little bit lower, and you just use a little bit more energy. And so it gives you more information in a more granular way, and you can use that to decide how you want to operate your home.
All right. So Luis reminds us that in La Ceiba, Honduras, the outage is 2 hours a day. Every day the power is lost. And John weighs in.
Parts of the Caribbean are like that, actually.
Yeah. John weighs in. He says, having worked in the US energy market for years, I feel CUC has excellent service and reliability. Their web outage page also is informative and accurate.
Thanks,
So,
John.
yeah, kudos. So Susan is still perplexed by the deposits. Vanessa thought it was $100 per room.
It used to be
Susan-
$100 a room, but what we found was that that's really an inaccurate way of doing it. And whereas if we were to look at the history of the usage in the place, the idea of the deposit is really to provide security on the payment, and 45 days of usage falls in line with the typical amount that is used from the time it's used to the time that it's billed and paid.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. So let's go back, Sasha, to the email, because I want people to, of course, start thinking about what they can actually do to help the situation. You know, I think some things are outside of our control, and then there are sometimes things that we can kind of step up to the plate and help ourselves with. So wherever we can help ourselves, we're all about being self-sufficient. So how can you prepare? So assessing your property to identify areas where you can make adjustments. Air conditioning tends to be 60% of the electrical costs in Cayman Islands households. And it says here, an efficient air conditioning unit can cost you inefficient can cost you significant amounts of money. So how do we go about, say for example, I don't know, if my units are efficient or not efficient. Who do I call?
Your AC maintenance provider should be able to tell you the condition that your air conditioning is in. There are a number of companies that are providing just maintenance, and the maintenance of an AC is a fairly basic type of service. So not all companies have the level of expertise to make these types of assessments. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to do an assessment on your AC system, I would recommend that a customer contact one of the more sophisticated air conditioning suppliers and get that assessment done. They may very well make recommendations on changing of systems, and then at that point it becomes a decision for the customer to make. Is it better to spend maybe as much as $1,000, $2,000 on an upgrade or more on an upgrade of their air conditioning system, or are they happy with keeping it as it is, but recognizing that may mean that their electricity bills are higher and aren't going to change. So it really becomes a financial decision. If you invest in a good AC system, and you maybe can save, I don't know, $50, $100, $150 off of your electric bill, is it worth the maybe $4,000 or $5,000 in the cost of the system, or whatever? The cost of those things really depends on the home, right? Mm-hmm. So those types of companies can help with that. But I mean, there are simple things that the customer can do. Is make sure you have a programmable thermostat. Those are less than $200. In fact, CUC has been providing some for quite some time. I think we might be out now, but we may still have some. The Ecobee thermostats, they can even do things like sensing whether you're in a room or not, and you can program them to pay attention to that and turn it off if you're not there. You can program them for a different mode when you're at home, different mode when you're sleeping, different mode when you're away. And then you can set a schedule for all of those things to happen. And then you can monitor the status of your thermostat from your phone anywhere on the planet that has an internet connection. And you can just use things like that, even with the older AC systems, at least to make sure that it's not running when it doesn't need to run, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that's cheap. Well, cheaper than a new AC system, but it's still a couple $100, right? But in terms of energy efficiency investments, it's a very big bang for your buck. LED lights, they're very, very, very much out there. A lot of people have them, but I still walk into homes sometimes and see a good old incandescent bulb and scratch my head a little bit. LED bulbs are very inexpensive now, much less than they used to be. So those are some gains that can be made. And the other thing with an incandescent bulb, it's wasting all the energy, and it's wasting it, and it's creating heat, which your air conditioner then has to then cool down. So it's a double whammy. So really do think about that. We have listed in here deep freezes. Caymanians love a deep freeze, and they have them in their garages or wherever. Those things are energy hogs. And so evaluate whether, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. We provide a product that enables people to have a certain quality of life, but do think whether or not the turkey from 3 years ago is worth keeping. Sometimes you when you go through those deep freezes, you say, oh, that's where we put that, right? And so just think about that. If you're using it and you're getting benefit from it, great. Just know that they do use a lot of energy, particularly when you install them in a warm room, which is where they typically tend to be placed. I put in here gaming computers. It's a bit of a personal learning. When my kids are using their gaming computers on those days, I can see as much as 10 kilowatt hours a day increase in my daily usage. So it does add up. 10 kilowatt hours a day, every day of the month is, what is that? 300 kilowatt hours at, say, 25 cents. You do the math there. It's not free. It's $75 a month. If they're used as much as my kids love to use them.
Yes. I mean, I think there's so many things that we don't think about that's constantly using power, that we kind of leave in suspense mode or whatever, but they're using electricity,
Yep.
And does it make sense to go around unplugging devices? I mean, is that something that
it will make a difference if you do?
Yeah.
But like I said, you have to, and if you have to do it, but it's not exactly the best quality of life if you're having to go in and plug things in before you turn them on. So just consider the things that stay on most of the time that actually use a fair bit of energy are things like your fridge. You're not going to unplug that.
Right.
Your internet modem, you're probably not going to unplug that, but it does use some energy. The TVs and cable boxes also draw energy when they're off. And there's been improvements there. But when you're buying devices, if you look for the Energy Star certification, that usually helps in determining whether or not this device is designed for energy efficiency. And sometimes the more energy efficient ones are a little bit more expensive, but you save in the long run.
Right. And I must say that you're talking about the smart thermostats, which we personally use for a number of years, even when we were in our apartment. Now we're in a house, and our commercial units that we've had for many, many years, actually. We've been using those because sometimes you leave, you forget to turn it off, and you can't remember, oh, did I turn off the AC? You can just log in remotely on your phone, turn it off, increase temperatures if you need to. I find that they are an immense way to just keep an eye on your air conditioning units.
They'll also send you an email when it's time to change your filter. It's not a smart detection. You can program
just a reminder.
And it'll remind you, all right, it's 3 months since you changed your filter, go get it done.
Yeah. And also, as it relates to the smart technology, another one that's available, I forget exactly what they're called, but basically like the TVs and stuff, right? You can plug those into one of these smart plugs, and then you can connect it to like Alexa, and you can say, turn the TV off, and it'll actually turn it off at the source, so that only the smart plug is then waiting for instructions to turn it back on or whatever. So, I mean, technology is
relatively inexpensive as well. So, for the customer who's considering, unplugging things while they're out, that's actually a really good way of doing it. You can get a pack of 6 or 8 of these smart plugs, and then tell Alexa, say, all right, I'm going out. It turns all of them off with a routine. That would be a really smart way of saving a little bit of money for not a lot of cost as well.
Exactly. All right. So the next section of your email says, what's CUC doing essentially to help? says that CUC is committed to helping to reduce fuel costs in any way, and here's what you're doing. So there's no added markup on fuel costs. I think that's one of those sort of things that persistently people are misinformed about. Again, the fuel cost is a direct pass through to the consumer, which CUC does not profit from.
To add on top of that, we actually have fuel efficiency targets that we have to meet as well, and we get penalized if we don't.
Oh, who are those targets set by? Is that OFREG?
They're set by, well, we jointly get together with OFREG, and what we do is we look at the historic fuel efficiency, and the concept is we don't want it to get worse. And so we have a cap that it doesn't get above and it doesn't get below certain, and this is a target that's basically designed for some sort of continuous improvement.
All right. CUC's proposed fuel price volatility management program. What's that all about?
It's exactly what it says there. You know, the objective of the program is to reduce the impact of volatility on fuel cost charges. Utilizes options, which some people call hedging, to promote transparency in prices, et cetera. It's pretty much our hedging program.
Okay. Right. All right. And aims in the future, 60% of Cayman's customers are on renewable energy by 2030.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about earlier on. You know, we created a plan back in 2017 that would allow our energy to be approximately 65% sourced from renewable energy sources. We're ready to go on that. The other aspect of it is, well, that means that 35% would be remaining on diesel fuel. But the plan also calls for us to get rid of diesel 100% completely and replace the fuel that's used when we do need to use fuel to be natural gas, which is substantially cleaner burning, lower cost, and also has substantially less price volatility, just simply because of the nature of the natural gas market and how it would get here. We wouldn't, you know, you have a situation where if natural gas prices were to double, we wouldn't see the end price here double because a large part of the cost is actually fixed in the shipping and liquefaction and the storage costs. And the actual portion of the cost that sits on the open market is probably about 25 to 30% of the total cost.
All right, Sandra Miller. Good morning, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining us. She has a question. She says, good morning, CMR and all. A few people are asking why one side of Windsor Park is well lit and the other side always experience road light challenges. How many days before your service will cut off for unpaid bills? So we've got two different questions here. The first one being about some sort of issue in Windsor Park.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the lighting issues in Windsor Park, but it's something I will ask about and see. The vast majority of street lighting is managed by the National Roads Authority. There are some areas where individuals pay for street lights in front of their homes. And so I wonder whether or not that's what's going on, that maybe there's a part of Windsor Park where there's more homeowners that are paying for for private lights. I don't know. I will ask. But in general, the decision on where public lighting goes lays with the National Roads Authority. On the question about how long before the service is cut for non-payment, that varies because of practical reasons. But the terms of service is that the bills are due within 30 days of them being sent, and after 30 days they're subject to disconnection. Now in reality, it's not possible to do all customers at the same time, so what we do is we disconnect a small portion at a time and manage that process throughout the month. So it may be that some customers are in that 30 to 40 day bracket, and there may be some that get to 60 days. Because we just didn't get to them at the end of the month. So there's no fixed time. But if you have that disconnection notice on your bill, you are eligible for disconnection of service, and it's just best to just not get there.
All right, very good. El Ray, good morning to you. El Ray wants to know, does government have to pay for all of the street lights? This is, I think you were just sort of answering this usage. And also, do they pay CUC for installation of new poles and cables, etc., when there are new roads or changes to existing roads?
Yeah, so the NRA does pay a streetlight fee to CUC on a per light basis. CUC's poles and cables and wires are CUC's costs that are recovered through the rates that are charged to customers. So if we put up a new pole line, that's CUC's investment in serving the community that the pole line goes through.
All right, the things that you just never knew. All right, folks. So yeah, for sure. So, folks, let's put our hands together and thank Sasha Tibbetts, who's the Vice President of Customer Service there at Caribbean Utilities Companies, for coming on this morning, answering some of our questions as we all sort of prepare and brace ourselves for what undoubtedly will be increased pricing really across everything during the summer months. But for sure, the anticipation is that your CUC bill will go up as well. Do you anticipate any fewer social media comments about the bill, Sasha, now that you preemptively warned people that it's coming? Probably.
You know, it's really hard on some customers, and I hear and feel their frustration. And the whole purpose of this is not to reduce the negative comments. It's really just to give customers the information they need to perhaps make some decisions that can help them. And in some cases, they may not have a choice in the matter, but as much as we can inform them, the better off they are. And hopefully we've achieved that. I thank you for inviting us on the show. You have an audience that is a very big part of our customer, a very important part of our customer base. And I really appreciate the opportunity to take the questions and give the facts to your audience. So I'm happy to come back on anytime.
Thank you. And I think the last time you were on, we promised that we would do we would pick someone's house and do a CUC audit, and that never happened. We didn't really follow through on that. And I believe that Siobhan had volunteered actually to have you.
We did do it with.
You did with Siobhan?
We did it with the. I'm trying to remember the department of the government but with Kristen Smith, who is the energy policy coordinator. We did do a full home makeover and audit, and we're just in the process now of measuring before and after. So we are collecting the data, and we'll see the impact of, we did things like put in the blow-in insulation, change the AC, and put in some higher efficiency appliances to the competition winner's home. And the idea is to look at what that investment was and see which one was a bigger bang for the buck. And the information is just on one home, but it's information that we'll be sharing, and I know Kristen's team will also be sharing to allow people to make decisions. Now, some homes will respond better to a new air conditioner. Some homes will respond better to insulation. But all homes will respond to insulation and better air conditioning. So it's like I said, it's 60-70% of home energy usage is in cooling. So the less we can waste in doing that and use high energy efficiency systems to do that, the better things will be.
One final question from Peter. He says, can I hedge my energy costs by pre-buying kilowatts before the costs go up?
That's a really interesting idea. It's not available now. What you can do, though, is take the same money that you would have pre-bought your electricity, and instead of doing that, perhaps invest in some energy efficiency for your home, and you might have the same effect.
Okay, folks. All right, Sasha, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate you coming on the program. When you've got that the results of the energy audit and the changes, do let us know, because we're really, really curious as far as how much of a difference do all of these things that we do actually make. So a makeover and energy efficiency, I think, is a great and fantastic idea. So thanks again to CUC folks. They're a part of our life. Hey, we don't appreciate how fortunate we are, to be quite frank. Like Lewis said, in some countries, they've got rolling power outages every single day. I work with some overseas vendors, and it's so interesting sometimes when they message and say, I haven't had power, or I don't have internet access, or whatever. And I think despite all of our complaints that we may have here in the Cayman Islands, we're still very, very fortunate when it comes to reliability of services. Yes, we are paying a premium probably compared to some people, but we've also become very, very accustomed to these creature comforts to be able to turn on your power and it works, 98% of the time.
99.99.
99.99% of the time, and you don't have any major issues. I think it really is amazing. So Sasha, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, have a good one. All right, folks, we just have a few moments remaining in the program. I don't know if you guys noticed, for the folks who are watching online, but for some reason my video keeps like swapping cameras. So I have multiple cameras, and for some bizarre reason, it kept swapping to the non-dominant camera. So I don't know what's going on there. I feel like I need to restart the computer this morning, which I will do after the show. Roger says, by having your panel box properly balanced according to usage, it'll reduce your costs. Most electricians tend to balance the box by looks. However, if one leg of the box is consuming 80% and the other leg is consuming 30%, CUC's meter will show that your consumption of 80% at the highest reading. I'm not so sure I fully understand that one. But I think what Roger is telling us is that, when you do simple things like even what's going on with your panel box is probably something you need to have people who really know what they're doing. And I don't know, quite frankly, that all electricians would know that sort of thing, because I have no clue. That sounds very, very complicated. But Roger's saying to check it out. Speak to your electrician and see what they tell you about even how the electrical panel box is arranged and laid out. Very, very interesting. Well, I tell you what, there are definitely things that you can do on an individual basis per your home and your household. Teaching kids, for example, to turn off things when they're not using them. This is a constant struggle with someone who is a toddler in her household. She goes in one room, she turns on the light, and then she leaves. And I said, hello, please go back, turn it back off. We have some automatic lights that come on and off based on movement. I'm beginning to question whether some of those are as efficient because they're picking up movement, which, is like outside the door even. And so just constantly evaluating the use of technology of these smart devices and so on that can help you monitor your usage. Don't forget that CUC has this option online, folks. It's actually really, really good, where you can get a daily report. So you can set it up, and we've done this before. You can set it up that, hey, I only want to be able to use whatever kilowatts a day, and then anything over that, notify me. And so you'll get reports. You'll see the spikes in your usage, and you can sign up for those alerts. It's on their website. And go sign up for that, because I think the more aware and cognizant you are, a lot of us listen, as consumers, we waste a lot. And I feel like we're not as aware of how much we're using. So even when our CUC bill comes, you swear that my usage is the same and I'm hardly ever home. And, I hear all these discussions about what people are doing. And then when someone comes in and does a proper audit and they really look at what's happening, they're like, well, actually, you're using way more than you thought. I know we use a lot around here because we have a lot of electrical devices. So everything from cameras that have to run 24/7, computers on 24/7. I don't keep AC units on 24/7. We do have some split units around the place. So if I'm not in a particular area, I try to turn units off. Sasha didn't mention it this time, but the last time he was on, he talked about the importance of using a fan to help, sort of aerate the area, although you have the AC unit, it can drop your temperature by a couple degrees just by having a fan on. Isn't that amazing? Because I didn't know that before. And I thought, okay. And I started doing that at night when I'm sleeping. And I must tell you that I really noticed the AC tripping on a lot less with the fan running. So I think, there's logic to it. So there are tons of things, folks. We have gone to great lengths to even, because again, depending on how your house is built, and when you go to build a house, if you're building a house, think about where the sun is coming from on your property. Can you turn the house like a certain direction? You don't necessarily have to have the front door facing a particular direction, because heat, what sort of windows are you going to put in? Do you even want windows? Like maybe fewer windows is a good idea that allows less heat in. And of course, things like trying to make those, those windows as efficient as possible. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Interestingly enough, in the US, President Biden has just announced new funding to make homes even more energy efficient. So the US is doing a lot of the right things in some instances. But their government is investing in things that will lower the cost for Americans, because this is not just something that the Cayman Islands is struggling with. This is across the board. So go check this out, folks. This just literally dropped yesterday. If you go to energy.gov, that's the American site for the Department of Energy. And it says that states and territories can now access $3.1 billion from President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law to lower utility bills for millions of families with energy efficient home upgrades through the Department of Energy's weatherization assistance program. So this is quite interesting, and it's something that he's literally just signed off on. And it's basically going to expand the reach of the weatherization assistance program to help both state and local and tribal governments to reduce household energy use, saving consumers money and reducing emissions. So it's also good for the environment, and improving the health and safety of homes and communities that are disproportionately impacted by high energy costs. So the program offers different initiatives for families, including clean air, who want to get to this clean air economy on their path to what they call net zero emissions economy by 2050. So the program is ambitious. I'll put the link here in our chat. Go and check it out. It's good to see what other jurisdictions are doing and how they're getting there. So home energy retrofits and upgrades, including electrification, heat pumps, LED lighting, insulation, sealing up leaks, can slash monthly energy bills for families and improve the air that we breathe. So the more energy efficient your home is, the better it is for the environment. It reduces carbon emissions and even helps to generate good paying jobs in the economy. So this program in the US has been around since 1976, and it served over 7 million households and delivered an average of $372 in annual energy savings for American families. And, you do what you can. So governments have a role to play in this, as well as our electric providers, and of course the consumers. You also have your role to play. So do what you can. Speak to CUC, speak to their other people who will come in and do an energy efficiency audit for your home. So do everything that you can. And buying the right appliances is also important. Like Sasha said, it might cost you a little bit more in the beginning, but you can certainly save over the long term. So thank you, Raul. And he says it's true about the panel box load. It made a big difference for him. And that's something to look into. So have your panel box properly loaded. Thank you, Emma. She says, what about the uncooperative customs lines running through the yards? Custom lines running through the yards. All right, we'll talk about that one. All right, folks. So time to end the program today. We're going to end it on time. We've got a few things going on here. I wish you guys an absolutely fabulous day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 7:30. Do not miss tomorrow's discussion, because we're going to be having an in-depth analysis of what's happening at the Cayman Islands Port Authority. Quick reminder, the Platinum Cake Competition, the deadline for that is this Sunday. So here's a quick message before we bid you adieu.
Hello Cayman, this is Governor Roper, here to remind you that there are only a few days left to enter the Cayman Platinum Cake Competition. Celebrate Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee and win the chance to have your winning recipe recreated and served at Government House this June at the Queen's birthday party. Submit your recipe today at gov.ky/jubilee, where you can learn more about the competition and other exciting events. You have until Sunday, the 3rd of April. Good luck, Cayman, and happy baking!
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Find us on Facebook and YouTube for the latest show episodes, including special community interviews and much more. Follow Cayman Marl Road on Facebook and YouTube for all your community happenings.